This past week, yesterday, actually, not far away from here, Am Yisrael, I guess you could say, had the schus of, after 11 long years, to bring back Hadar Goldin for Kevurat Yisrael here in Eretz Yisrael in Kfar Saba, right nearby. And for 11 years, Am Yisrael has been waiting to bring it back for Kevura. And the one overriding question that I want to ask today, obviously everything is going to come out through the Parsha, is why is it that Am Yisrael, the Jewish people, were so devoted, I would say even obsessed, with Kevuras Yisrael, making sure that all those who die get buried with appropriate respect and the appropriate way, in the proper manner. Why is it that we're so obsessed with Kevuras Yisrael? And it's not just Hadar Goldin. We can go back to, it's throughout all of Jewish history. I had the schus, I don't know if you can say the schus, but right after October 7th, in my Miluim service, I was part of the Chavra Kadisha of the army. So right away in the beginning of the war, the first week of the war, we were dealing with identifying all of those who died, Al Kiddush Hashem, from the Nova, from all over the place. We spent a lot of time in Shura. We spent some time in Zdet Teman even, to find Jews that might have Chas v'Shalom got mixed up there. And then after about a month, my unit was sent to Be'eri, where we were looking for the remains of a little girl, to try to see Lial Chitzroni. Was her name, to see if we can, they didn't know if she was missing or not, or she was taken captive. There was no reports of her. And we literally, from the house that she was in that was burnt down, it became like an archaeological dig, like a site, where basically we would fill up buckets, and we had sifters, and we go through and we're trying to look for a little bone, a little something, just to identify it, to see if she was there. But even more importantly, that if there is actually something here that should be buried, that it should get the proper Kevuras Yisrael. And again, the question is going to be, why is it that the Jewish people are so obsessed with burying their Mesim and doing it in the proper way? You see also, if you remember, in 2019, this took the whole Jewish world by shock. Suddenly there was an announcement that Zechariah Baumel was coming back and being buried in Ezra. Who's Zechariah Baumel? In 1982, there was Milchemet Shlom HaGalil. There was what was called the Battle of Yaakov Sultan, where there were 20 soldiers that got killed there, and 3 were MIA. And in 2019, one of them, Zechariah Baumel, miraculously somehow was found and brought back to Israel. What was the story behind it? So the story behind it was that at that point, if you remember, it was after the fall of the Syrian regime was in the civil war, and Russia came in, and Israel and Russia were on good terms at the time, and there was some sort of favor that apparently Bibi did for Putin. And when Bibi went to Putin to sit with him, so Putin said, what could I get you back? What could I give you in return? Is there anything I could repay you? And one of the things that Bibi said was, we have 3 soldiers that are missing from 1982, and they're somewhere buried in Syria. We don't know where they are. Could you help find them and bring them to Kevuras Yisrael? So they started, there was like a unit in the Russian army that went to graves, dug out where they thought were people, flew them to Russia. They did DNA testing, and then they did this until they found the body of Zechariah Baumel, and there was the big tekes. I don't know if you remember. There was a big tekes where Bibi flew out, and Putin said, here's Zechariah, the fallen soldier, and what they say behind closed door, that Putin was shocked by the request. You have something you can ask me. What are you asking? Someone died 37 years ago. He's already, everyone forgot about him, right? Some of the three, their parents already passed away. So who's waiting to bring back? Why is it so important for you to bring back? A few months ago, in May 2025, Tzvi Feldman, who was the second of the 3 ones that were missing in action. There was Zechariah Baumel, Tzvi Feldman, and, remember, Yehuda Katz. Yehuda Katz was a student in Karen B'Yavneh. He learned with learned with my father. They learned B'Chavrusa. But Tzvi Feldman was brought back also, and in May, this past May, was his Levaya. How did they get him? That was a Mossad, IDF mission, where basically they went to Syria after the fall of the Syrian regime, and they were basically digging, looking, finding DNA, and they smuggled his body back, all for Kevuras Yisrael. Right? So you see, Am Yisrael, we're obsessed with bringing the Mason back. Like we said, we started this year, Hadar Goldin. Right? We have a bracha in benching. Right? The 4th bracha of benching of Atov V'Ametiv. Why was that enacted? It was for the Harugei Beitar, those who got killed in Beitar, that they were finally brought to Kevura. They were finally buried them. So we say Atov V'Ametiv. There's another case, if you remember, in 2004. There was what was called the Asona Nagmashim in I think it was in the Tzir, Philadelphia. So there were 2 Nagmashim that got blown up, And a lot of the bodies of the soldiers, there wasn't a lot that was left to bury. And there was an image. It's like it went viral, this image of soldiers literally on their knees in a row, and they're just going step by step, looking to see if there's anything left on the floor. It's a very famous picture of these soldiers that are literally through the sand, looking to see if there's anything that's urged. By the way, just an interesting fact is that in Eretz Yisrael, if you've ever been to Levi in Eretz Yisrael, how are people buried? They're buried without a coffin. In Chutz La'aretz is why they're buried in a coffin. Here, they're buried in a palace. It's a little scary. But if you've ever been to a Levi of a soldier, they're always buried what? In a box. Why are they buried in a box? Shouldn't they be buried in a soldier? This was takana of Rav Goren. Rav Goren, who was the chief rabbi of the army, he said that all soldiers need to be buried in a box. Why? Because unfortunately, sometimes, Rahman al there isn't a lot to bury. There's not a lot of the body that's left. So not to embarrass the families and the soldiers that don't have a lot to bury, what do? Everything gets put in, everyone. If he's full, not full, everyone gets put in a box for that reason. Again, this is all out of respect for the Mason. It's all out of respect for those who were deceased. When we were working on all the Kedoshim that got killed on October 7th, it's a surreal, you feel that before I went to the mikveh that morning, before touching any of these Harugi Malchus, right? You don't just walk in, you're walking into the Kodesh HaKodashim. And when you're there, you're not cracking jokes, you're not eating and drinking, everything is done with like a serious tone, everything's done, very serious to give kavod. We stop every so often, they would say Kaddish, you ask for mechila at the end of the day. There's so much respect that is put into, in Judaism, in Jewish tradition and culture, in Kevura, with regards to Jewish burial. And the one overriding question I want to ask you is, why is it that Am Yisrael is so, for 11 years, everyone was waiting for Hadar Goldin to come back. Why is it 37 years for Zachariah Bamel, 43 years for Tzvi Feldman? Why is it so important for us? They were niftar, they got buried wherever they are. Why is it so important to bring them back to Kevuras Yisrael and to have so much respect for the Kevurat? That's the overriding question. How are we going to find the answers to this question? Obviously, it's a Parsha shiur. It's not just, right? We're going to find it from the Parsha. What's in this week's Parsha? The first burial that a Jew is ever buried. You have the story of Avram, whose wife passed away, Sarah Imenu, and he's looking for a burial plot for his wife. And from this story, it's really going to shed light to all of Jewish tradition of why it's so important to have a Jewish burial, why it's so important not to chas v'shalom cremate the body, and why it's so important to show respect to the actual body, even though it's not living anymore. What's going on here? That's the idea of the story. So what I want to do is as follows. To answer our first overriding story, we're going to jump in to the whole back and forth. A lot of psukim are used with a back and forth between Avram and Ephron and the people of Ephron, Bnei Chet, all the back and forth. We're going to ask two questions on these psukim. We're going to get into the fine details of the psukim. We're going to ask two questions on these on the psukim, and then we're going to see, and then we'll come out with an answer, and it's going to be something mamish incredible, mamash incredible. So let's begin. The parsha starts off. Vayichayei Sarah 100 shana, 20 shana, 7 shanim. Shnei chayei Sarah. Sarah lives how long? 127 years, and she passes away. V'tamat Sarah b'kirat arba hi Chevron be'eretz Canaan. Vayavo Avram lispod leSarah v'livkota. Avram comes to eulogize her and then to cry. He lost his wife for many long years. He's crying. He's very sad. What's the next word in the pasuk? Vayakam, right? Which is always very important. A Jew cries. A Jew's in pain. A Jew mourns. But after he pains and after he's in mourn, what does he need to do? He gets up. You have to continue. So it says, Vayakam Avram ma pnei mito. Avram got up, even though the mace was still there. Vaydaber el bnei Chet. He goes to speak to the people of Chet. Strange name. Children of Chet, right? What does it mean, children of Chet? And what does he tell them? He says like this, Ger v'toshav ani imachem. He says, I'm living amongst you. Tnuli achuzat kever. What does that mean, achuzat kever? Achuza means, there's a street here in Ranana, achuza, but achuza means a piece, achuza of a kever. He says, I want achuzat kever. Why? V'kvera miti lefnai, so like that I can bury my wife Sarah. Right? Vayenu bnei Chet et Abraham. They answered him. Shemo, they give him most speech. Nesi Elokim, you're wonderful, you're incredible. Then they tell him, B'mivchal kverenu kvoret metecha. Wherever you need, just drop her in anywhere in the ground. So we're going to see now is that whenever Avram Avinu asks for a plot of land, he's going to ask for achuzat kever, and they're always going to respond kvor metecha without the word achuzah, and that's going to be our question number one. What is the difference between achuzat kever, which is what Avram Avinu wants so badly, and the kever, which is what they're offering? So first they tell him, you know what? Kvoret metecha, choose wherever you want. Go wherever you want. Go take your piece of land. And then he says, 1 second, I want to speak to Ephron. Okay, And he says, go tell Ephron that I want to bury my wife here. Okay? And I'll tell you which one I want. I want specifically the Ma'aras HaMachpelah. I don't want just anywhere. I want a specific place. There's a spot that I found. That's where I would love to bury her, in this little cave. That's in the corner, right? Bekesef maleh yitnelu li. I want it. I'll pay full price for it. Betochechem. Again, he says, la'achuzat kever. I want the Me'aras HaMachpelah that's in the corner of the field. It's some like abandoned cave. I want that la'achuzat kever. And what are the answer? Ve'efron yoshev betoch b'nei chet. Ephron is there. And what does he say? Lo adoni shemeinu. Asadeh netati lach. I'll give you the field. Take it. Ve'amara asher bo lecha netatia. Right, I'll give you you take it for free, right? Netatia lecha kvor mitecha. Take whatever you want, bury your dead, not achuzat kever. So he says back, no, and then they go back and forth. He says, no, I want to pay for it. How much is it going to cost? Whatever. So everyone says, 400 shekel kasef. What's the difference between me and you? It's all the same. It's all good. You can fine. So they settle on the price. 400 shekel kasef is an absorbent, like a crazy amount of money, and that's what they settle in. What's the last pasuk? Vayakam asadeh ve'me'ara asher bo le'Avraham. The field and the me'ara and the cave belong to Avraham. La'achuzat kever me'et bnei chet. Avram says, I won an achuzas kever. I had to pay for it. I had to pay top dollar for it, right? 400 shekel kasef. If you offered it for me for free, basically, he said, you can have whatever you want, but there's a very subtle debate here, where I want a chuzas kever, and he says, no, just take a kever. Question number one, that we're going to ask specifically on this particular here, what's the difference between achuzat kever and kever? What's the hidden debate that's going on between Avram and Ephron over here? So that's question number one. Question number two is, and this is the question of the Gra points this out, is that if you look at the psukim, there are 7 times where they ask to bury the word kvor metecha. It says, Avram Avinu says, ve'kvara miti. I want to bury my dead. And they said, kvor et metecha, bury your dead. Mi kvor metecha, likvor et miti. Metecha kvor. 7 times it says kvor metecha, except for the last time. The last time, when it says, when they say, okay, take the deceased and bury him, it says metcha kvor, meaning the dead body should be buried. So let's just make this clear. The first 6 times where the Torah is describing the debate and the back and forth in the negotiations over here, it says kvor metecha, which means bury your dead. The last time it says metcha kvor. It flips it around. It says you're dead, you should bury. What's the difference between kvor metecha, which is the way it's written the first 6 times, and the last time where it says metcha kvor, which means bury your dead, you shall bury. Good. So we have basically 3 questions. One's an overriding question, and then we have 2 specific questions over here. The one overriding question we want to figure out is, why is it that Am Yisrael is so devoted, so careful, so much respect, so much halacha has to do with properly burying and properly having respect for those who got killed? And we're going to try to find the answer to that from the Parsha. What were the 2 questions that we asked on specifically the negotiation between Avram and Ephron? Is that Avram wants achuzat kever. He repeats it over and over. Give me achuzat kever. And Ephron says, no, take a kever. Who wins at the end? Avram Avinu pays 400 shekel kasef, but he says, I got it as achuzat kever. Question number 1. Question number 2 is that in the negotiation, it says, bury your dead. So it says always, kvor metecha, 6 times. The 7th time, it flips it around, and it says, mitcha kvor, the dead you should bury. And the question is, why the last time does it flip it around? Good. 3 very simple questions, very fascinating questions. When you read it, maybe you slipped your mind, but absolutely amazing. So to answer these questions, we really need to go a little bit of history. We'll go to last week's Parsha. Last week's Parsha, if you remember, there was an incident that kind of like was all the way in the beginning of the Parsha. And it's part of a greater incident, but this small part might have slipped your mind. And that is that the 3 angels come. Avram Avinu is recovering from his bris milah, and he wants to host them. So what does he do? He runs to go get food. What does the pasuk say? Ve'ela bakar ratz Avram. Avram Avinu runs to the bakar. So the Mefarshim ask, well, why are you running after the bakar? Well, you don't have a barn where everyone's inside. You go in and you take out the thing, you shach the animal, right? Why are you running after the bakar? So the Zohar says, and the Pirkei de Belezer say, and I'll read it to you. Ratz lavi ben bakar. He went to go get a ben bakar. Ubarach milfanav. This little goat that he wanted to take, what happened? He opened the barn door and it ran out. So now Avram, can you imagine? He's 3 days after the bris milah. He's now going on a sprint looking for this little goat that ran away. So he's running after him, right? And where did the goat go to? V'nichnas leme'arat ha'machpelah. Right, he was there. And the goat ran into Ma'aras HaMachpelah. V'nichnas Avraham acharav. Avram Avinu went in after the goat. Umatzah sham Adam HaRishon ve'ezro. He found Adam HaRishon and Chava laying there. Shochvim al hamitot, lying on bed. V'yeshenim, and sleeping. V'nerot dolkot, and there are candles that are lit alehem on them. V'reach tov alehem kereach nichoach. And the smell that was coming out of this area in Gan Eden was of Ma'aras HaMachpelah, was like the beautiful smell. And says Avram Avinu, and the Zohar says this, that Ma'aras HaMachpelah is the opening to Gan Eden. To this day, if you ever go to Ma'aras HaMachpelah, there's this little area in Ulam Yitzchak, I think it's open this week, Parshat Chayei, where you can go in and it's like a cave. It's like this little hole where people go in and they say that's really the entrance to the Ma'ara that's underground. That's where he was running to. So Avram Avinu ran into Ma'aras HaMachpelah, and the Baal HaTurim says that this is actually hinted in the pasuk. It says Ve'el Habakar Ratz Avraham. It doesn't say Ve'el Bakar. What's Habakar? Says the Baal HaTurim, Habakar, if you switch it around the letters, it comes out to the letters what? Kever. Bakar is Kever. Ha-Kever. The Kever, Ratz Avraham. Avram went to the burial place. What's the burial place? Ma'aras HaMachpelah. That's where he went. And by the way, the Medrash says that the hesped, what was the hesped that Avram Avinu gave Sarah? Right? What was the eulogy that he gave? Eishes Chayil. Eishes Chayil was the eulogy. And one of the parts of Eishes Chayil is Zamema Sadeh Vatikacheyu. Right? We're talking about what does that mean? Zamema Sadeh Vatikacheyu. She wanted, after Sarah heard the story of Adam and Chava lying there with the candles and it smells good and it's amazing, Sarah says, I want to be buried there. So Avram Avinu, knowing that his wife wanted to be buried there, what did he do? He went and he said, I need to buy this plot of land because this is where Sarah wants to be buried. And why does she want to be buried there? Because Ma'aras HaMachpelah is the gate to Gan Eden, whatever exactly that means in the spiritual world. But Ma'aras HaMachpelah is the place where it connects to the world to come. So in other words, when Avram Avinu is burying Sarah specifically in Ma'aras HaMachpelah, what's he announcing to the whole world? He's announcing to the whole world is that there's more to life than just what you're experiencing here right now in this moment or throughout your 120 years on this earth. There is more to the world than just our physical world. There's what's called Olam Haba, right? Avram Avinu specifically is choosing Ma'aras HaMachpelah because it's a testament that there is a world to come. There is Olam Haba that's after this world, right? And that's why they say Chevron. What is the root of the word Chevron, which is where they're buried, is Chaver, friend, or Chibur. Chaver is also a friend. Why is it called Chaver? Milashon Chibur, because you're connected to your friend. Chevron is connection. What's the connection? It's the connection between this world and the world to come. That's why they're actually, Avram Avinu wanted to be buried there, and all the Avot Imot and Adam Muhammad. That's the connection from this world to the world to come, that there is in Olam Haba. Right? There's a sefer called Gesher Chaim. Anyone who's ever, unfortunately, sat Shiva, so there's a sefer called Gesher Chaim, which has all the halachos of Avelus. It was written by Rav Tukatinsky. He's like a big Rav in Mekubal in Eretz Yisrael. In the second edition, or maybe even the later edition, after he passed away, it actually described how he passed away. Like his children write, how he knew that the day was coming, and he sat on his bed and he washed negavasar and he opened the windows and he made a shahakol and a cup of water, like a very fast. He was very in touch with the world to come. So he, in his introduction to the Sefer of Gesher Chaim, which is all about Avelus, he says, let me give you a mashal of what this world and the next world is like. He says, imagine you have a mother and she's expecting. Baruch Hashem, what does she have? 2 twin boys are in her belly, right? Now the twin boys, for the past 9 months, are growing in the belly, and imagine that they can talk to one another, right? So imagine they're schmoozing, they're buddies, they're best friends, they're brothers and sisters. So one turns to the other and says, life in here is amazing. I don't need to do anything. I have this connection right to my belly. I get oxygen, I get food, it's warm, it's never cold, it's never hot. I live in LA the whole year, it's perfect. It's mamish, it's amazing, it's comfy, everything's great, everything's wonderful. And the other brother says, listen, this isn't the real thing. One day, we're gonna come out and we're gonna see mountains, and we're gonna see rivers, and we're gonna see the sunrise and the sunset, and we're gonna see the most beautiful scenery in the world, and we're gonna experience food, and we're gonna breathe air, and we're gonna eat. He said, you crazy? You're gonna put things through your mouth? We get everything through the tube now. You cut the tube. You know what's gonna happen when you cut the tube? It's over, right? And this is how they're having this debate for the last month, for 9 months. I'm telling you, it's gonna happen. Now guys, you're crazy. Now the one who says that there is something beyond pregnancy, the mother gets contraptions, he's the first one out. So he's gone. What is the other brother who's left behind? What does he do? He's gone, right? What happened to my brother? Who knows what happened to him, right? We missed him. He left. He's dead. But then what happens? Then the second one is born. And then you realize, whoa, in the womb, that wasn't the real thing. That was fake. That was just preparation for what? For the real world. Says the Gesher Chaim, the same thing. It's with this world and the world to come. You're here. You think you need to eat. You need to drink. You need to have this. You look at this scenery. That the world to come it's even greater than that. It's much more rewarding, much more beautiful, much more incredible. So what Me'aras HaMachpelah represents, or burial in general, why Avraham Avinu was so stubborn about finding achuzat kever, is because he wants to show to the whole world and to the Jewish people that there is life beyond just what we're existing here. Meaning, this is a preparation for the world to come. You need to do Torah and mitzvahs and be nice to one another and help one another. Right? And that's why burial is so important, because burial in Me'aras HaMachpelah, that's the connection of this world to the next world. But another reason why burial is so important, Avraham Avinu is teaching us, is because it's just preparation. We're basically saying there is more after this, right? So that's why you need to get buried, because there's going to be a world to come. There's a world after this. And afterwards, there's also going to be Tchiyat HaMitim, where you're going to come back to life, right? Ephron, on the contrary, what was his philosophy? No. All it is right here. He's the first baby in the womb who's very skeptical. All you see is right here. That's why he's called Ephron. Ephron is milashon afar. What's afar? Ground. All there is here. All there is just the ground, just the materialistic world. That's what's here. And what's his people called? His people are called Bnei Chet. Chet is spelled Chav Taf, but Chet also sounds like Chet. Chet like sin, meaning Bnei Chet, meaning when all you see is what's here. So then, eat, marry, drink, enjoy every second to the best. Enjoy the physical aspects of this world, because there's nothing left afterwards. What Avraham Avinu is saying, and why he's so stubborn, and he's saying, I want in achuzat kever, is because I am saying that there is a world to come, right? So I want to, if life is just about this world, so then when a person is dead, just throw him, right? Throw him in the whatever, I don't know. Make sure it doesn't smell, put him in the ground somewhere. But if you're saying that, no, there is something going to come afterwards. You're going to a world to come. And hopefully also one day, there's going to be Tchiyat HaMitim, where the neshama comes back. So then we want to make sure that the body is kept in the right place, that when the neshama comes back, everything's going to be, nice, fine, and dandy. Ephron, on the other hand, is saying, Kevurat Yisrael. Who cares? There's nothing else besides the world that's here. So what does it make a difference? Just throw Sarah in, dig a small hole anywhere over here, put her in the Am Yisrael, and for 100 years, no one's even going to remember about her. So just leave her here in the ground, right? You don't need any more than that. Avraham Avinu is saying, no, I need achuzat kever. Achuzat means a place. I need to hold on. I need a place where I'm holding on, because this is going to be eternal. So reason number one, we have to say, why Am Yisrael is obsessed and devoted to kvura, is because every time we bury a deceased and we do a proper kvura, we're announcing that this world is not just about here. There's also a world to come. And because there's a world to come, hopefully there's going to be Tchiyat HaMitim, and the neshama is going to come back. So we want to show respect that for the mace, we want to have a proper burial place, a proper place. This is where we want to know where everyone is buried. There's a proper section for him. So when there's going to be Tchiyat HaMitim, he's going to come back. That's reason number one why burial is so important. But there's even a much deeper reason, a much more deeper reason, and a much more important reason. And it goes like mamish to the core of what Am Yisrael stands for. And it's as follows. Every single person, every single Jew, every single person is born as a human being. But also a part of you is the neshama, the conscious, what you get from the neshama from HaKadosh Baruch Hu. That neshama is what's called a chelak eloka mima, meaning every single person, when you're walking around, there is a piece of God inside every single one of you. So you are, in other words, what are you? You're almost like a walking Sefer Torah. Now you have a kedusha embedded in who you are in your core, whether you know it or not, whether you sin or whether you don't sin. You are kadosh, right? The halacha is, when it comes to Sefer Torah, right? If a person sees a Sefer Torah is ripped, or chas v'shalom, a person sees a Sefer Torah that's burning, what's the halacha? You need to do kriya. Why do you need to do kriya when you see it? A person needs to rip a shirt, because it's as if something that's holy is being torn apart. When a person is in a room with another individual that passes away, if he's there at the time where the neshama leaves, even if it's not his relative, what's the halacha? He needs to do kriya. Why does he need to do kriya? Because it's the same thing. It's like a Sefer Torah that got ripped, that got torn. Now it's even deeper. What happens when a Sefer Torah rips? What do you do with it? You don't throw it in the garbage. What do you do with it? You have to bury it. It has to go into Gnisa. Not just a Sefer Torah. You put on tefillin. You have the boxes of the tefillin. That's called Tashmishe Kedusha. Tashmisha Kedusha means are things that were used to hold on to something that's holy, right? Like the tefillin box. If you get, let's say it broke, right? The tefillin box that opens and closes, right? So let's say it broke. You want to get a new one. What do you do with the old one? You can't throw it in the garbage. What do you need to do with it? You need to bury it. It goes into shemis. Why? Because it's Tashmisha Kedusha. Same thing, says the Gemara, with a person. When a person is niftar, because inside of him was a neshama, which was a chelik eloka bimal, according to Chabad, mamish, right? It was like a piece of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So now when the neshama leaves, it's like a Sefer Torah that ripped. It's like your tefillin box that broke. That the body, we show respect to the body because the body housed HaKadosh Baruch Hu. So another deeper reason of why we are so careful and so makpid with kavod of the deceased is not only because we believe in Tchiyas HaMeisim and that's why we want there to be a proper burial place so when the neshama comes back. It's a testament to the present and to the past that this individual was a part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu. It's a part of a chelik and Moloka Mimal, and it's a wild. That's why cremation is prohibited, right? You can't take a Sefer Torah that becomes puzzle and burn it. Why? Because this thing was once holy. You're right now it's puzzle, but it had kedusha in it. You can't just destroy it, throw it out, burn it, put it in the garbage. You have to show it with respect. Same thing, a body that once held a neshama, meaning it once had a piece of God in it. So you have to treat it with respect. It has to be done with the highest form of respect. And therefore it needs proper kedusha. And that's why there's so many halachos that have to do with the way you treat the mace, right? And make sure to carry properly, not to step over there. All tons of halachos. I remember when I was in Shura, and we were working with all the deceased, those that died and got murdered al Kiddush Hashem. So I remember it must have been the third day to the war, October 10th, around that area. This like top star American general walks into where we were working with all the Mason that were there, and I was like one of the few people that spoke like American English, so I spoke to him, and he saw us working for like an hour, and he said, "I've never seen anything like this in my life." Right? Anytime a little bit of blood was spilled out or whatever, right away, cleaned it up, and we had a special container that went to Kevura. Right? All the blood stains that were there. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little bit gory, but I think it's important to know. Anything that has a little bit of blood went out. There was a special container. And that container, everything went to Kevurat. When there was blood on the trucks themselves that we took off, we carefully wiped out. After we tried to identify bodies, if there was time, we cleaned up all the blood that was left on the trucks, and we put it in a special container, and that was buried. When we were working, we were serious. It wasn't like cracking jokes or whatever. And so afterwards, I spoke to him. He said, "What's going on?" If you're like, "Why don't you just get a hose and like hose the whole thing down? Like what's this obsession?" And I said, "You don't have." He said, "Every single one of these people held a piece of God in them. When I'm dealing with someone who's deceased, it's holier than a Sefer Torah. It held a piece of HaKadosh Baruch Hu in it. And that's why we treat it with the utmost respect." And then it dawned upon me that if this is how we were treating the people who were deceased, because they once held a piece of God inside of them, all the more so, how much should we be treating what? One another that still hold a piece of God inside of them, right? If after a person is niftar, the reason why we're showing them so much respect is because they once held, they were like a Sefer Torah that was burnt. So when they're alive, when they still have the part of a Kadosh Baruch Hu inside of them, for sure you should have more kavod and more respect to one another. And that's the idea of the Ma'ar Samachpil. We started off the shiur. We asked, why is it that Am Yisrael is so obsessed with Kevura? Why is it that we waited, Hadar Goldin, this year, 11 years, 43 years we waited for Tzvi Feldman, 37 years for Zechariah Bauman. Why are we so obsessed? Two reasons. Reason number one is because we believe that there's a world to come. And if you believe that there's a world to come, you want a chuzat kever, you want a piece of land. We're not just burying just to get rid of the body. There's something more here. There's something more to life, and Bezrat Hashem is going to be Tchiyas HaMeisim, and it's going to come up from that period. We want to know exactly where the mace is buried. That's reason number one. That's for the future. Reason number one why we have so much respect is for the future. Reason number two why we have so much respect is what? For the present and the past. It's a testament that every single person has a chelik eloka mimal in him. It's a testament to every single person that he has a part of God inside of him. And if you view people as humans, but you also view them as when you're talking to another individual, you're talking to a piece of Hashem. You're talking to a piece of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. You have so much more respect, so much more honor. Now let's go to our second question. We said every single time in the Parsha, it says, Kvor metecha, Kvor metecha, Kvor metecha, 6 times. And the 7th time it says, Metcha Kvor. So we said, why is it repeating so many times Kvor metecha? And why the 7th time does it flip? Explains the Gra that who is already buried in Ma'aras HaMachpelah at this time? Adam and Chava. How many more people were going to be buried? How many more people after Adam and Chava? So you have Avram and Yitzchak. You have Avram, let's do the pairs. You have Avram and Sarah. You have Yitzchak and Rivka. And you have Yaakov and Leah. That's 6 other people. But there's a 7th one. Who's the 7th one? What? Esav. The head of Esav rolls in when? And the Medrash says it rolls into Ma'aras HaMachpelah. So explains the Gra, the 6 times in the Parsha where it says, Kvor metecha, bury your dead, is referring to the 6 other people that are still yet to be buried. Avram and Sarah, Yitzchak and Rivka, Yaakov and Leah. And the 7th time, where it says, where it flips it over, it says mitcha kvo. Who's that referring to? That's referring to Esav. And why does it flip it over? Because all of the first 6, which is tzaddikim, which their whole life, they realize that this world is just a conduit to the world to come. So they're, every day of their life, they're living to the fullest, right? So it's kvo metecha. You have to bury the thing that was nifter. But someone who's just all afar, someone who's all materialistic, all he cares is about the now and the present and the hour maximizes pleasure. So that's what Chazal say, Reshaim b'chayeim kuim mitim. Even when they're alive, even Reshaim, even while they're alive, they're still considered dead. Why are they considered dead? Because they're missing out on life. They're missing out on the real life. So that's why the 7th time it says mitcha kvo, meaning he was already dead before it was time to bury him. The first 6, they died, they buried them because they died. The 7th one, he was already dead beforehand because he was living a life of no purpose, and that's why it says mitcha kvo. That's the fascinating gra that everyone should know. So this week, I hope we got a little bit of a better understanding of what's going on in the world, what's going on around us in the time, and it's always amazing to be able to connect the current events to the parsha itself. And mamash, this yesterday was the Levaya of Hadar Goldin after 11 years. And why is it? Again, you have to remember, and you take this with you every day of your life. Number 1 is that there's a world to come. And if there's a world to come, how am I acting? Am I just indulging, or am I actually living a life of purpose and a meaning? That's number 1. And number 2 is that the reason why we respect the Mason is because they once held a piece of God. And therefore we have so much respect and so much covet to them. And if that's the case when they were already deceased, Kol Shekain, what should you have respect for? For those who are alive. So the message for this week to take with us, for the next week until next week's shiur B'ezrat Hashem, is really when you're dealing with one another, remember that there are chelik elo kamimal, and when dealing with yourself, remember that there's more to this world than this world itself. There's also the world to come, which B'ezrat Hashem will all be zocheh to, and we'll all be zocheh to see. Tchiyat hamitim b'meira b'yameinu. Amen.